Good afternoon. It's Monday, November 2. I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. Now a special welcome to those watching on onespotmedia.com. 2 persons were shot fatally and another 11 persons injured at a party in White House, Westmoreland. As we hear in this report, the incident follows an argument between one of the deceased and the shooter. Viewer discretion is advised.
These bloodstains and slippers tell only part of the tale of what transpired here at the Under Vibe Sports Bar in Gordon District, White House, Westmoreland. It's understood that about minutes to 8 o'clock Sunday evening, persons were attending a party at the bar when an argument developed between 31-year-old Mark Morgan and the man alleged to be the shooter. The man allegedly threatened to kill Mr. Morgan, then left the venue. He allegedly returned and opened fire at Mr. Morgan and in the process hit the other patrons. After the shooting ended, it was discovered that 13 persons were shot. The police were summoned and on their arrival, Morgan and 30-year-old farmer Kason Alex Blair were found suffering from gunshot wounds to their heads. 10 of the victims were taken to hospital where Morgan and Blair were pronounced dead. 3 others were treated and admitted in serious condition, while 2 were admitted to another hospital in stable condition. Mr. Blair's mother says she's shocked that someone would take her son's life.
He's the 4th of the 7 children, very jovial. I don't know of any enemy that he had, why anybody would want to do him anything. He's a very nice and loving son, very nice father to his 3 children.
Mr. Morgan's mother says her son came to her, dropped off his child and told her he was going to a party for his brother. She said after warning her son to stay home because of the weather condition, he was adamant he was going. She says a few minutes later, she heard of the incident from another son.
He said, "Mommy, I have breaking news for you, but I don't know how to tell you." And I said to him, "How you do know?" He said, "No, me, I'm Mark. They shut up the bar and Mark, you know if Mark dead, but he know say Coco dead. One name Coco, you know say Coco dead on his spot, but he don't know if Mark dead. And when I went to Black River, I never see my son until he dead."
She says her son has had issues.
Sometimes Mark don't hear, but another time he jokify and he friendly. You understand? Okay. And sometimes he give me a lot of trouble, you know.
TVJ News understands that 12 9mm shell casings, 1 live 9mm round and 7 expended bullets were found at the scene. The police are looking for 1 suspect in connection with the shooting. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Another resident of a state-run residential facility has died from COVID-19. Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie last night told our news center that the latest case involves a 69-year-old man at the St. Anne Infirmary. He died yesterday.
Who was admitted to the St. Anne's Day Hospital for over 2 months. When he was released and sent back, it was discovered that he had contracted COVID. He was taken back to the hospital and has been in the hospital for quite some time.
This is the 3rd COVID-19 death involving a resident at a group care facility run by the state. A resident of the Golden Age home in Vineyard Town, St. Andrew, and a resident of the St. Elizabeth Infirmary died late last month. Mr. McKenzie says efforts continue to prevent a surge in COVID-19 cases at the facilities.
We have stepped up the process of screening and sanitization, and the restrictions are still enforced. But, you know, we can only hope that there is no further outbreak. The Vineyard Town situation seems to be holding, and we still have another week or so before we can say we are fully out of the woods.
And the Ministry of Health is reporting another cluster of COVID-19 cases, this time at a residential facility operated by charity organization Missionaries of the Poor. In a statement last night, the ministry said 125 samples were collected at the Faith Center. There were 74 positive cases. Now 5 results are pending. The Ministry of Health has urged Missionaries of the Poor to implement measures to slow transmission of COVID-19 at the facility. These include strict adherence to the no-visitor policy, restriction of movement between residents and missionaries and ministers of missionaries of the poor, and dedicated staff and equipment for the various clusters at the facility. The ministry says residents with comorbidities will be monitored daily. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 death toll has risen to 210 after another senior citizen died from the virus. A 70-year-old woman from St. Anne became the latest victim. The Ministry of Health is investigating another death. Meanwhile, 126 new COVID-19 cases were recorded in Jamaica. The country's case count now stands at 9,257. Their ages range from 9 to 92 years. Kingston and St. Andrew recorded majority of the new cases with 88, followed by St. Catherine and Trelawney, which both had 9. Now, there are 4,289 active cases. A total of 4,637 persons recovered from COVID-19. The Health Ministry says 93 patients remain hospitalized. 6 of them are critically ill. TVJ News has obtained the names of the schools where face-to-face classes will resume under a pilot program next Monday. 4 of the schools are in Clarendon. There are Morgan's Forest Primary and Infant, Garluggy Primary and Junior High, Alston High, and Kemps Hill High. In Portland, the schools are Tranquility Primary and Infant, as well as Moortown Primary and Junior High, while in St. Thomas, Yallas High, and over in Trelawney, Troy High and Albertown High. In St. James, Somerton All Age and Infant, as well as Chatsworth Primary and Infant are making arrangements to reopen. Chantilly Primary in Westmoreland and Mile Gully in Manchester will participate in the pilot along with the Bethlehem All Age and Infant and Ballards Valley Primary in St. Elizabeth. Now, the pilot program is expected to last for 2 weeks. Speaking at a media briefing at Jamaica House last week, Education Minister Favour Williams said COVID-19 protocols will be strictly enforced at the schools. Mrs. Williams said students without masks should be provided with one from the school. Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, is the latest leader at the forefront of battling the coronavirus crisis to go into self-quarantine. He's been identified as a close contact of someone who tested positive for the disease. The WHO Director General tweeted late on Sunday that I have been identified as a contact of someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. I am well and without symptoms, but will self-quarantine over the coming days in line with the WHO protocols and work from home. Now, the biologist and public health authority, who's headed up the WHO's effort to fight COVID-19 since it first emerged last December, added that it was critically important to comply with health guidance in order to suppress the virus. WHO guidance indicates that close contacts of people infected with COVID-19 self-quarantine in a facility or at home for 14 days. And it's now time for a break on the Midday News, but please stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back. Continuing the news now. An amnesty is on the horizon for residents of Bull Bay in St. Andrew. The announcement was made by KINGSTON'S Mayor DELROY Williams in a recent interview. It comes following a statement from Prime Minister Andrew Holness that the government will have to declare no-build zones as citizens are building houses in flood-prone areas. O'Shane Masters reports.
With the recent heavy rains across the island and more expected, at least one municipal corporation is seeking to help residents who fall under its purview. The Bull Bay area, which is prone to flooding and land slippages when it rains heavily, is getting much needed attention. The Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, KSAMC, says it is carrying out an extensive data-driven research on the area to determine no-build zones. It comes after the recent death of 42-year-old Romeo Leachman and his 15-year-old daughter in Shooters Hill, St. Andrew last month, following heavy rains. Mayor of Kingston, DELROY Williams, says this move is of paramount importance to the municipality as they will have a better understanding of where persons are living and there will be benefits both ways.
The KSAMC is currently looking at the general area. There are some sections that we have been focusing on to see whether or not what areas we will allow developments and the type of developments that will be allowed in different areas, because there are some areas, there are some type of developments that can be accommodated while other types of developments can't, and there are some areas that absolutely no development can occur.
Mayor Williams says the amnesty is more so to have things regularized within the municipality.
The municipality is considering granting a 90-day amnesty to allow persons who have built without the necessary building approval or the building permit to allow them to regularize their structures. We would not charge the penalty fees. We would discount heavily the application fee, the building application fees.
Mayor Williams also noted that other persons are slated to benefit from the amnesty. This includes persons who need revalidation.
Which means those persons who would have received a building permit but would not have started to build within the specified period, we are also granting those persons an amnesty.
No clear date has yet been set on when the amnesty will begin. Now, as to designated no-building zones, Mr. Williams says that will be determined after all the relevant data are collected by the KSAMC. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
A plea this afternoon for the Landowe Bridge in St. Thomas to get some urgent repairs. The damaged structure is still being used by motorists, thereby jeopardizing lives. More in this report from Dwayne Anderson.
This is the Landowe Bridge in western St. Thomas, or at least what is left of the bridge. The base of the structure has partially collapsed. Residents have tried to help themselves. They have put in place 2 makeshift beams to hold up the structure, but needless to say, this is not a safe fix.
The residents took it upon themselves to do some adjustment to the bridge so they can pass to and from. It is not something that is guaranteed. It is a threatening situation, and we are looking forward for the authority, NWA, and the Member of Parliament to make some address immediately to ensure that the citizens of Ramble and Landowe can move through their community with some level of comfort.
During last week's flood rains, the authorities promised residents that the bridge would get some attention. But over a week later, nothing has been done. And with each vehicle that uses the bridge, it edges closer to collapse.
It's amazing that after the highlight, mention were made concerning the repairs, because the citizens are going through a torrid time. And until today, even after the depression has passed, nothing has been done to the bridge to appease the residents of those communities. I am not sure exactly whether or not somebody is not caring, but if it was like Kingston and St. Andrew, we would have gotten redress already.
The bridge connects the communities of Ramble and Landowe.
A crocodile caught roaming along the Crawford Main Road in St. Elizabeth has been captured by members of the Black River Safari. A truck driver saw the nearly 9-foot crocodile roaming along the road about 4 o'clock this morning.
To find out what the emergency could have been, because it must have been. When I went out there, the driver and the passenger asked me if I raise animals here. I said, yes, I do. They said there's a crocodile right at my fence trying to get through the fence.
Verrill Smith then called other community members for assistance.
I've been watching him for about an hour and 3/4. Just about when day is breaking now, I got in contact with a few other community members and they came. And when after the police came, they tied him up and, secure him properly. The police contacted the authorities. And someone from the safari in Black River came and collected it.
Senior captain at the Black River Safari, Roger Ambersley, said the reptile was making its way from the pond into the Crawford area and heading towards the beach when it was captured.
So while it was moving from the pond to the sea, it was ending up in someone's backyard, and the area is fenced off. For the crocodile, it has nowhere to go because the fence was blocking it.
Officials at the safari in Black River, the crocodile has been evaluated and tagged. The reptile has since been released back into a suitable environment. Florida-based attorney-at-law Marlon Hill is confident Joe Biden will win the U.S. presidential election tomorrow, November 3. Speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica this morning, Mr. Hill said more than 90 million people have already voted, including Jamaicans who are U.S. citizens. The details in this report.
It's only hours before the final day on which American citizens will cast their votes to decide the next president of the United States. More than 95 million persons have already voted, both in person and via mail. As the clock ticks closer to the November 3 presidential election, the state of Florida has become the hotspot. Voter protection attorney Marlon Hill explains that more than 400,000 Jamaican descendants reside there, and according to him, they have shown more interest in this presidential election than any other.
This year was unprecedented in terms of the number of persons of Jamaican descent across the country that were trying to do the right thing. Even my good friend Shaggy, who served in the U.S. military and Marine, we had a great chat, and he was very forthright and honest about his determination to have his say in this election. He could not pass on this election in terms of having his voice on history.
Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has been targeting Florida in his campaigning activities, particularly voters from Jamaican and other immigrant communities. Additionally, some Jamaicans may throw their support behind Biden because of his running mate, California Senator Kamala Harris. Her father is Jamaican, and so the results may be a close call for the state of Florida.
Florida is so important because there's so many layers to Florida. There are almost like 5 different states within the state of Florida. We have equal amount of Democrats and Republicans that are registered in the state of Florida, and independents, otherwise known as NPAs, are also a large number of the registered voters. This is the reason why we're called a purple state. No one has won Florida with more than 1.5, 1.3% separating the window. There will only be an automatic recount if it's 0.5% separating the two.
However, Mr. Hill, who is also a Democrat, believes Joe Biden will win the election.
I think the country is in a different mood. This is not 2016. Democrats are going to vote for Joe Biden, and he's going to be helped by the independent level and also even Republicans. There's some Republicans that are going to switch sides, and you see some of those in the news stories in the past few days. I think the country is in a different mood, and it wants to go in a different direction.
Joe Biden is set to campaign today in Ohio and Pennsylvania, the state of his birth. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is set to visit North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in a last-ditch effort to save the states he won 4 years ago and block Biden's route to the White House. Giovanni Dennis, TVJ News.
Thanks, Giovanni. Now, Americans will be going to the polls as the country continues to battle the coronavirus. With that angle, here's the CNN.
President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden spent the final weekend of the 2020 presidential campaign on the road.
A vote for me and the Republican Party is a vote for the American dream.
The only thing that can tear America apart is America itself. And that's exactly what Trump's been trying to do.
One of the major issues during this race is the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, first off, we haven't beaten it. I think let's all agree on that. I think we have to, all of us need to wear a mask. We need to social distance.
According to Johns Hopkins University, since January, there have been more than 9.2 million confirmed cases in the U.S. and more than 230,000 deaths.
We're going to see not just the cases continue to escalate, but we're going to see perhaps 2,000 deaths per day 2 or 3 weeks from now.
And now voters will decide who should lead the fight against the pandemic. This as President Trump appears to suggest firing Dr. Anthony Fauci, a member of the White House's coronavirus task force.
Don't tell anybody, but let me wait till a little bit after the election.
We're going to act to get COVID under control. It's almost criminal the way he has handled it.
Time now for sports. Arsenal broke their Old Trafford jinx after clipping Manchester United 1-0 in the English Premier League on Sunday, while Tottenham Hotspur are up to second, 2 points behind leaders Liverpool. There were also wins for Newcastle United and Southampton.
In previous years, a Manchester United and Arsenal contest would be dubbed a title decider, but the fall of both teams over the years has now reduced the high stakes. In a dull first half, Arsenal created the more threatening chances, but midway the second half, they were gifted the chance to take the lead when Paul Pogba clumsily brought down Hector Bellerin in the penalty box. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who was enduring a 5-game scoring drought in the league, scored the resulting spot kick as the Gunners pocketed 3 points at the Theatre of Dreams for the first time in 14 years. Also on the day, early leaders Everton suffered back-to-back defeats as Callum Wilson's brace gave Newcastle. And in the other game on the day, Southampton held on to a 4-3 win over Aston Villa at Villa Park after a double strike from captain James Ward-Prowse. Action in the Premiership continues on Monday. Renardo Brown for TVJ Sports.
And that's the midday news. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for a primetime news package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon and have a wonderful week.